That was a long-ass countdown, but welcome, Crossworm.
It's good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. Thank you for joining. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm all right, man. I had a little hiccup at the studio. I was going to film out there, and there's renovations out the ass, and it was noisy. So I brought some stuff home, and now there's neighbors with fireworks. So we hear some of that. We're partying, man.
Perfect.
It's
Perfect.
that kind of night, I guess. It's June 12th, I guess. Something's going on somewhere.
Yeah, it's always something, man. Especially out here. There's always a quinceañera or something. All the Hispanic families in the neighborhood are always celebrating something. You can hear them with their loud cars or their music. So I get it. It happens all the time.
For sure.
Yeah, I just got done spending the last couple days kind of just going through almost your entire discography on Spotify, which will bring me to my first question. Is everything that you've made on Spotify? I'm assuming there's probably projects that you've just never posted up there before.
Yeah, there's a few things that still haven't made it up there, with other people where they're just kind of hemming and hawing over like, I don't know if I really want that up, yada, yada. Like one of the bands that I was in, Dear Dangerous, our stuff has never been released on any DSPs. So that's not up, but I try to put every single one of my projects on my Bandcamp, whether it's singles or side projects or compilations or whatever, because they don't make me split it into so many pieces. It could just be under one account.
Yeah, I feel that. I haven't checked out the Bandcamp yet. I'm kind of a Spotify junkie just because it's so easy. I get all the podcast and music stuff in one spot. So
for sure, yeah. It's convenient. Everybody uses it. It's one of those things where, like, yeah, you could pick another DSP, but odds are, if you don't have it on Spotify, people aren't going to tune in. So
yeah, unfortunately, because Bandcamp is cool that they give artists such a big cut of their money. Don't they give them 100% of every sale still, or did they change that?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, you also have to look at it like a sales model, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's going there to stream your shit. So if they're not in the market to buy it and they just want to listen to it here and there a couple times, then it's not gonna convert to a sale. Like, I think I do the poorest on my Bandcamp out of everything else. My iTunes sales are actually better than my Bandcamp sales for whatever reason. Well,
probably because they don't have an app. I think you have to buy it through the desktop, and seems like nobody uses the computer anymore for that.
And it's a case of iPhone as well. Like, iPhone throttles everything. So if you want to download something off Bandcamp, it's not allowing you to do that to your iPhone. So.
Yeah, they definitely do not like the competition.
Right.
Which is one of my least favorite parts about iPhone, because I like how user-friendly everything is Apple-wise, because I'm dumb as fuck, so it kind of walks me through shit. But yeah, they make it complicated to work with other things. But anyways, so was Phoenix your first rap record?
My first solo rap record, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you doing before then? I want to get into the whole history.
Okay, so before that, I was in a horrorcore group called Two Corpse. And it was like all one word, and it was all capitalized, 2KORPSE. It was me and another guy that I grew up with. He's a couple years younger. I started that in 98, and we were just teenagers. Like, I was 17, he was 15, and I wanted to do this thing because, like, I grew up in the Detroit area on the Canadian side, so we were already hip to the wicked shit that was going on. Like, not just ICP, but like everybody in Michigan that was already doing this shit. We were getting their cassettes and their CDs at like mom and pop shops. So we were like into it, and I wanted to do that. So I started this group up, and we did a bunch of like basement records. We did one professional record, and then we split, and I went solo. We both did. We both went solo. He did a normal straight up hip hop record first, and then I went and did Crossworm. Phoenix was my first solo record.
Okay. What was that like? Because I just want to say that going back and listening, your style evolves over the years, but you were always pretty fucking dope. So like, what was it like coming out the gate like right away?
Thank you, sir. Well, as a matter of fact, Over the Years was the name of one of the songs on Phoenix. Ironic. But yeah, So, so I'm sorry. What was the fucking question?
Well, what was it like releasing your debut album?
Back then, there was no way of knowing if you had any fans. Like, there was no way to trace it or track it or anything like that. You got to remember, too, it was like CD burners weren't even really that popular yet in the late 90s. So by the time I was already writing my solo material, it was like we had gone to some shows, some like horrorcore festivals, some underground shit, and passed out like demos and stuff like that. But there was no way to really know if anybody liked your shit, was hoping for more stuff. You know, they would go to an old school website and check in your news section. So it was all about just the creativity back then. You weren't thinking of anything else. No repercussions, no, oh man, I have to try to get this many plays or this many, none of that. It was just, what do I want to create? And I think that was really, really freeing. But it was also lost on me because I was so dog shit at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's your first record and you're young and you're just trying to really do it and you don't know how to do it and you've got all these creative ideas. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good record, right?
Yeah.
But it was adventure, and that was the best part.
Okay. Were you living in Canada at the time, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was living in Canada all the way up until 06 or 07.
Okay.
And that was 04 that it came out. I was writing it in 02 and 03.
Okay. So so you did that, you were passing them out, and then around, what was it, 2007, I believe you dropped your next one, or was it 2005? Let me look. I gotta look at that right now. 2007, you dropped Ready to Burn.
Yeah, so I actually dropped a demo version of Ready to Burn the year before in 06, and then the final version came out in 07. And like back then, it was just like, here's a zip file, you know?
Yeah. So did you drop this around the same time that you made the move over into the U.S. also?
Yes, because in 06, I finished audio college, and immediately after college, no, I graduated in 07, so immediately I crossed over to be in this band in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was here for the duration for most of that. So I would stay here for, you know, just shy of 90 days or whatever the limit was back then. Then I'd go back to Canada for a couple days, come back, because it was illegal. You couldn't just, you know, move over and stay. So I kind of had to bounce around quite a bit. But yeah, by that point, I had jumped over to the States.
Okay. What made you want to come to the States and stay in the States?
You know, it's tale as old as time, man. Like, opportunity. There's no opportunity in Canada, especially for Canadian musicians. You know, I knew that I wanted to do music, and I knew that there was no hope in Canada. So my only call was to get to the States, and I just happened to have this invite to be in this band with this other guy who was originally from the same city I was from. We didn't grow up together, but we had met through a Universal Records showcase for his band. And then we just started working together. I remixed a tune of his, but it was just such especially being from Windsor, Ontario, like, we're backed up to Detroit. We're at the ends of the earth as far as Canada is concerned. They don't even really count us for Canadian demographics. So I already knew in my head, like, I'm already at the ass end of the country. Jumping over that border to get like more opportunity is the goal. It's not as fucking easy as that, and I was very naive to think so. But, you know, 20 years later, here I am. So you know, it worked out.
Okay. Well, so since you were so close to the Detroit, Michigan scene, were you, like, from the very beginning, like, a fan of, like, ICP?
Yeah. I would say I got into them in like 95, just before Riddlebox dropped. So I was listening to them, and then I came across like Isham and Nadas cassettes and early Project Born stuff, Dayton Family stuff. So I already knew about all of that shit going on before Malenko even dropped. So I was already into it, you know. But ICP, I think, was the catalyst for that. It was just like, as a kid, just hearing that fucking like hilariously wild, because everything else, nothing sounded like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just didn't.
Yeah. No, true. Like there was a lot of like crazy white boy rappers at the time that were kind of doing the Eminem thing, but then there was ICP that took it in a complete different direction, like theatrically and everything. So,
And I think despite being where I'm from, Eminem didn't get a lot of love, dude. Not when he came out. He didn't get love until like after his second record. People were still trying to gatekeep him and shit on him, and like you were corny if you liked Eminem. Especially like with my group of friends and shit. Like we were all into that really, really weird underground shit, and Eminem was just not it for us. I think he's a fucking legend. He's dope now, but I mean, early on at that time, he just wasn't it for us.
yeah, well, it was until he like linked up with Dr. Dre and started doing all that shit that he.
No, I'm talking even after that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, like even like at the height of his fame in the early days, he just wasn't it for most people in our area. I don't know what it was. It's just like, yeah, he's got a couple tunes, but like it took a long time for him to earn his place that he has with everybody, you know? Because obviously the mainstream liked him first.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Interesting, because I was so young when I first heard his music that I was like, I was probably 4 years old. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I just remember hearing it on the radio back. I was living in Oregon at the time, and so I had no concept of what was cool and what
Right.
wasn't cool. You know what I mean? So
I think that's a really big misconception, is that everybody loved him out the gate and thought he was the shit. But like it was 2 or 3 records in before everybody was like, okay, he's dope. They finally like just conceded. But for the longest time, everybody was fighting it like, nah, fuck that guy.
yeah,
It was crazy. Because now you think about something like that and you're like, that's unbelievable that people could even contest that at all.
and I see a lot of it. I spend a lot of time scrolling TikTok, and all these kids are bagging on Eminem all day long. It's crazy, but what else is new? So,
Yeah, what else is new? Dude's fucking absolutely incredible. Nobody's going to take that from him.
Yeah. So aside from ICP, your music style definitely has like some industrial influence, some like new metal influences. Maybe I'm just assuming that, but what would you say some influences you had growing up?
I think that's pretty accurate because, I started at the height of the new metal era in like 98. I started Crossworm anyways, I should say. And, I was 17. So that was like an influential time, was when all that shit started to jump off. Before that, I was into grunge and alternative. I was never a big metal kid like that. But to be honest with you, I don't belong to one like genre. My identity isn't plugged into one little thing. Like I do love dark wave, like goth industrial subgenres, but it's not like I can't pinpoint one single thing and go, that's my shit. And I think that has been to my benefit. It's just like I'm just a mess of a whole bunch of different things, but nothing gets my allegiance 100%. I only see potential in genres, because like let's say I get into synthwave for a while. I'll be sitting there and like bumping a ton of it and going, man, this is really good, but it's almost there. It's almost there. There's something wrong with it. You know what I mean? So I'm never like, this is my shit. I've never been that way in my life.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that for sure. So yeah, I can see that. But what the next question is, at one point you said you were living in LA. What was this after? So you moved to Detroit first, and then you lived in LA for a short period of time. What year around would that be?
So I moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is west of Detroit. But the guy that I moved here to be in a band with, he was jumping all over the place. He's like, hey, I've got this gig co-managing an act on Ozfest, blah, blah, blah. I can get you a job if you want to come with me. So we did that in 07. It was just little things where he was getting these opportunities and dragging me along because I was producing and doing drums in this band. So we were kind of like a team. And he's like, all right, man, come on. He was building me up. So we ended up getting to LA because he took a job at Live Nation. And I think that was 09. So I was still in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
staying with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, but I was going back and forth between LA and Grand Rapids. Long ass fucking train rides, dude. I was selling beats just to get a train ticket to go back and forth. Fucking 53-hour like train ride, ridiculous. Man.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But I think it was from like the end of 2009 until the end of 2011. So it was a good 2-year span that I was, there for a chunk of time, Grand Rapids for a chunk of time. But it would be like 3 months I'd be in LA, and I'd have to go back over the border. So
okay. How was that experience? Was you what would you say some of the highlights or things you learned through, exploring the US as like coming in from Canada?
It's really different because okay, so my life in Canada was me living in a small town, working a blue-collar job at a factory where nobody has any prospects. You're living that normal person life, right? Well, I come over to the States, and I'm not in the States for that. Now I'm here for music, and I'm already known. I've already had songs on the radio. So I'm being kind of brought around and introduced to people as Crossworm versus Steve Weatherby, So it was a completely different experience. And then jump to LA, obviously you live in the area, so you understand what it's like. But the culture shock was very different, very different. But again, I was there to work on music, man. I wasn't out partying a ton. I networked when I could, but I was literally chained to a desk trying to make these records fucking bang, That I'm just like a workaholic more than anything. When I did go out and to like events and stuff, I was just kind of like itching to get back to the studio. Like, okay, this is cool, like, but I need to go fucking make some beats right now or I'm gonna die.
I know that feeling, dude. I have fun going out, but I'm always like, I need to be back at the computer. I need to do something.
No doubt.
I get
like
that.
For example, you just worked all day and then you just jumped right in. You're like, got to get this interview done, man. Part of the culture. Part of the culture. Let's do it.
Yeah, man. I can't stop, dude. Any chance that I have, like any time off that I have, I'm spending it in the studio most of the time. And the occasional business outing at a show or for dinner or something, but I count that all as work. So
sure.
But yeah, man, like I completely feel that. And so you live in Michigan still, correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay. You just fell in love with that area and that was it, or is it just because it was also close to home?
Both, actually. I mean, I really do love this city. It was cool when I got here. It felt really cool, and then it ended up becoming home. The first time I came here was to do a show the next day. The night I came here, I met my wife, and we didn't start dating for like another year and change later, but she's from here, so I mean it was like a no-brainer. It was like, yeah, this is gonna be home for me for sure, wherever she is.
That's an awesome story, man. For sure. No, that's dope. No, I mean, but that's like
not to be corny, but I
mean, it's not corny though. That's touching. That's like a real, like immigrant story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, I mean, I've got that too. Like, I came to this country with only $20 in my bank account. I literally did. Like, I had nothing. I slept on concrete floors and shit. So. Yeah.
Well, whatever struggles you went through in your life, I think it definitely comes out in your music. Your music's fucking. Your lyrics are very prolific, and what is the word I would like to say? Because I'm always what you do with the way that you write and put together words, and not just the actual structure, but like your choice of vocabulary and storytelling and imagery is a lot of what I seek to do with the English language in music as well. So it's like I was very addicted to just listening to each record. I was like, okay, I gotta hear this next one. I gotta hear this next one. No, I gotta hear this next one. And I know you said that some of your earlier shit is, you said it's shit, but at the same time, like even your first record from 2004, shits on a lot of people's records that, they put out today. So
I appreciate that, man.
No, of course. So like the lyricism is absolutely there. It's incredible. Yeah, go on.
I know exactly kind of what you're referring to. And I was talking to Mum Ra about this in the studio when he was here. And I explained it as you have to sacrifice exactly what you want to say in order to make it sound good. So what I do is a lot of sacrifice for phoneticism, the way words sound as you say them. Sacrifice it making sense so that it's more poetic by the sounds of the words that come out. And what, like 10 times out of 10, I'll choose how it sounds over exactly what I'm saying. And you get it. It's like a double-edged sword in a good way, because with doing that, you get a little bit more of like a metaphorical leeway with it. So that's kind of my thing. I think that's what you're kind of picking up on.
It could be a little less literal, but it leaves a lot to the imagination in some of the rhymes that you have. So
Right.
And that's great because people who have brains don't need to be spoon-fed, everything so literally. You know what I mean? So like works.
But it's a tightrope because that's the way hip hop is. You're direct. You say exactly what you're thinking. You tell a story. Like traditionally, if you talk about the '80s and like underground and like boom bap and sure you would get a little metaphorical and stuff, but for the most part, the genre is very direct. And I think I used to be. Look at that, knocking my mic over. I think I used to be. I used to be that way, but I'm not so much anymore. I'm not so direct anymore. I like to let people kind of go, I can use this part and apply it to these other things that I've been through,
Yeah, I definitely can see that with the change throughout your music. Like, you definitely were a little more classical hip hop in the beginning, and you're even like the hooks were like more punchy. And now your hooks are more melodic now. They've changed a lot, so you could definitely see the maturity come through in your music, if that's the word, if that's even the right word for it. Because obviously, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll just go with that then. But yeah, dude, I was endlessly impressed with everything that I hear you put out.
I appreciate you, man. That's always my goal, is just to kind of shit on the last thing that I did and just go, how can I do this better, And I think that's why a lot of my hooks were punchy and kind of rhymey, is because I couldn't sing. I didn't know how to sing until 2013. So
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that's one of the things that I need to learn too, because I could do the punchy hooks right now, but I can't sing for shit.
Man, you just got to do it. You just got to get into a quiet space where you can suck and just suck until you don't, like, fuck you till you're good. That was pretty fucking... There was a lot of innuendo in that. Just suck, bro.
Bando, cut that, put it into a clip for the social media.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. I also want to shout you and Bando out because I'm very happy with all the work that she's been doing.
Hell yeah, she's a rock star, dude.
Yeah, she's
for
absolutely
real.
sick. Yeah, she's a great person.
I'm actually using her laptop right now that I got to send out to her.
Oh, dope. Hell yeah.
So this will be her work machine.
Perfect. So where are we? We did so in the chronological history, we went from 2007 to kind of 2009, 2011 era. And then you did Parasite Avenue, which was the last record that I left off on listening to, because I kind of bounced around a little bit, because I probably listened to Drowning in Restricted Thought like 50 times in the last week or two. Yeah, I got stuck on that one. I really liked that record. But yeah, so you did Parasite Avenue. What was going on in your life during this record?
Let me see. 2014, so that was 10 years ago. I was running a studio in Grand Rapids, and I called it the Red Room. And my buddy Luke, who brought me to LA, he was back in Grand Rapids at the time running his company, who was at the time co-managing a bunch of different artists. One of them was the old singer from 3 Days Grace, Adam Gontier. So there was all that kind of going on at the same time. But mostly I was working on that and trying to get through like this crazy immigration process. So I think a lot of that frustration definitely trickled into the music of that record.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Because that seemed to be like one of the last more like... I mean, they all have some aggression and what is it, like feelings, like deep and hard feelings in all of them, but I feel like Parasite Avenue is where the one I could start to see the transition into the melodic fucking structure and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure. It had been a few years, it had been 7 years since I put out a solo record because I had been doing so many other things like Dear Dangerous Records, Sun, Sky, and Surface. I was doing a lot of the Devil's Night stuff. And Blister, I had started Blister. So there wasn't a lot of room for Crossworm. And I kind of wanted to dedicate myself to other people for a while. So I think that's why there was such a big difference once that album dropped, because it just had been so long.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Let's talk about Blister, because I saw that you made a post about Blister. You're releasing a couple old songs from that, right? From that project, right?
Yeah. There's about 9 songs that we did. We used to drop singles on Friday the 13th, whenever it was. We just, hey, it's coming up. Let's do another song. And it was the most overlooked project I've ever done. It's just like no matter what I did, I just couldn't seem to get people to pay attention to it for some reason. Maybe it was just the timing was bad. So I decided to finally distribute everything and just do it as like a mutual solo, like a collaboration, like where me and him are both main artists rather than putting up as a Blister record. It's Crossworm and Renegade, and the name of the album is Blister. So just trying to rebrand it just so that it makes a little bit more sense and it filters into our mutual catalogs on DSPs, and it's just there,
Yeah, I get that. So when did you form Dirtcore?
So the name, the actual word in the name, I came up with in either 98 or 99, and it was just kind of like a joke because back then nobody wanted to be horrorcore. Horrorcore was garbage. People called it the wicked shit where I'm from. We didn't know what horrorcore was. We're like, what the fuck? Stop saying that shit. So then people were making fun of it, and they'd be like, how like Mad Max has sick hop, and then these people have this, and there's death rap, and there's everybody was coming up with their own names. Yeah. So I kind of coined it as a joke, and I was like, yeah, Dirtcore. I just kind of said it sarcastically, and then fans picked up on it, and it started to kind of gain steam. So in 06 is when I kind of started making logos for it and whatever. And then by 07 I had kind of solidified it. And at the time it wasn't Dirtcore Music, it was like Dirtcore Syndicate, which is hilarious because it's one person, not even a whole label, and no fucking friends because I was introverted. So I'm like, Syndicate, that's fucking hilarious. But yeah,
that's funny. Yeah.
And then I put out this little side project. I called it Jaws instead of Crossworm. I went under this other alias.
Yeah,
that was actually the first Dirtcore release, technically. So,
okay,
or was it? I don't know. I think maybe Mouthful of Dirt was Dirtcore Syndicate because it came out on NYA Music, Not Your Average Music. It was owned by somebody else. Kind of gave me a shot and put out 50 hard copies for me. But yeah, so yeah, 08, 07, around there was when Dirtcore Music first actually started dropping records.
Okay, dope. So were you ever into performing live? Have you done that a lot in your career?
Not as Crossworm, but I mean, I've done hundreds of shows as a drummer and like a keyboardist and stuff like that in different projects. But as far as Crossworm goes, I've never been interested because I don't want to be the guy with a beat CD playing or beat MP3s and just a microphone. I come from playing music, from being in bands, and that's the kind of show that I want to give people. Until I have that at my disposal, I'm probably not going to do it. And I've been offered, but there's always been, certain things that they just weren't up to code. So I had to let it go,
I get that, and I respect it too. It's it's definitely something that, because I used to perform in a group, and the dynamics of performing in a group is great. And then going from that to performing solo, just the tape, and it's just me on stage alone. It's a whole different feel. I feel like it can be kind of boring. I love performing, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I totally get where performing with an actual band would be so much more fulfilling.
Rap shows just bore me to tears, man. I think there's 2 rappers whose shows I've seen more than once that I'm like, yeah, okay, they did it right. One is Tech 9, the other is Yellow Wolf. And like anybody else who doesn't have something that theatrical going on, I'm just like, you can't, like, I'm so fucking bored. My feet hurt, you know, like I want to go home, dude, you know, like this is
I get that.
You know, I need to sit down somewhere or something. I'm fucking old now.
So I do like talking about shows because there's always experiences. When you did the shows with the bands, what were some of the, like, did you have any crazy experiences, like really bad ones, really great ones?
You know, I would say the ones that were really fucking bad, like, okay, me and the same guy from Dear Dangerous, we started another side project called Sun, Sky, and Surface. It's just a two-man kind of dark synth pop type deal. We went out on tour with Hurt and Smile Empty Soul. And something happened in Jersey. I don't remember what fucking town or what venue or whatever, but something went really, really wrong with the sync on shit. And we were in the middle of doing a cover of Head Like a Hole. And everything was so fucking bad and distorted and crazy and off time that the crowd literally just stopped and they were like, they didn't know what the fuck was going on. We were almost destroying the system because you know how my shit sounds. Mm-hmm. Just blowing the fucking cones out and off tempo, and it was just like a complete total mess. Mm-hmm. But we acted like it was intentional. So we kind of got away with it a little bit. People were just like, I don't know if I was ready for that. You know, like I don't know what that was. They probably thought like it was some kind of avant-garde shit, you know. So that was kind of wild. Other than that, it was mostly just drunk people doing drunk people shit, you know. Which was never really too fucking out of control.
Okay, I get that though. So do you still perform live with the band, or do you not do the band thing very much anymore?
No, we ended up going our separate ways. The band kind of like, we wanted to keep it together, but we just can't keep a full band. We're always like swapping members out and stuff, and I think the time just kind of passed on that. The genre was just, you know, like a combination of dad rock and late alternative rock. And nowadays it's like, in order to do that shit, you might as well wait for the comeback of whenever the fuck that's gonna be, you know?
Yeah.
Because it ain't it right now.
No, for sure. So around the time that ended up like stopping, you just went into full Crossworm.
Yeah.
Like dove all the way into it full time.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. We just talked about Parasite Avenue, and then let's get into Drowning in Restricted Thought. So this is, you know, moving along a couple years, putting out records more frequently again. What was going on in your life at this time?
Okay, so 2015, I ended up getting, I consider it a soft deportation. They kind of booked my interview at the consulate in Montreal. Now, when you apply for citizenship within the United States, they tell you stay put, don't leave the fucking country. So when I got booked in Montreal, I'm like, something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. I'm not supposed to go there, but what do I do? I'm just going to tell them, sorry, I have to stay here. I'm not going to go to my fucking citizenship interview. Anyways, so I go all the way out there and get all my paperwork in order to figure that shit out. And something happened where my status had changed from one thing to another. So it was basically like a fiance visa got fucked up, and then it turned into a different status of already being married. So when I got there, the guy was so frustrated. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I was told to come here. Look, here's the paper. And I showed it to him, and he's like, how do you make money? And I was like, well, I started a business with an American business partner, and this is what I do, yada. He's like, who the fuck told you you could do that? And I was like, the state of Michigan. Here's the other fucking paper. You know, and yeah. And he goes, get that out of my face and don't ever show it to me again. He goes, go home. And I was like, my home's in the States, in Michigan. He goes, your home is not in the States. Go home. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? So I like had to basically go live with family in their basement. And he's like, I'll call you when I decide either way if we're going to let you across again. And you know what? If you try to cross that border, you're banned for life. So they just didn't. And I waited for 15 weeks not knowing my status. So by the time I did actually get back over to Michigan, that's when I dropped Drowning in Restricted Thought. So all of that was just eating at me and a lot of those tunes were based around. That's why it was such a conglomeration of like there was artwork and poetry with the hard copy and all this other stuff. Is like I was going insane living in my parents' basement at fucking 34 years old with no job, trying to make beats and mix from another country just to stay afloat, going, where the fuck is my life at, you know?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Well, I can see that because the vibe of that album definitely has like a kind of like almost like a marching order. It has like an upbeat but like, you know, fight the system vibe to it. There's Kingslayer and Police State and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of that in there. I can feel it. So does that completely correlate just because of your experience with all of that shit that was going on, or is that just happenstance?
And I think it was happenstance too, because you know a lot of the stuff that was going on at the time. You know, I think at the time BLM was just kicking off, and I had a lot of artist hip hop friends in Grand Rapids that were kind of going through it and trying to stand up with that movement as well. So, you know, that inspired Police State. So it was just a mix of many different things. And I let what my life was going through kind of like throw gas on the fire with everything else, you know?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I just don't like authority, man, of any kind. I fucking hate it. I always have.
Well, I agree with you there. I'm not a big fan of it either.
I love the government. I love to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Don't
let 'em
deport
hear
me.
this.
Don't lose my paperwork, please.
Yeah, right? Jesus Christ. Never know with them. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I'm just, you know, I don't have the energy to fight it. How's that?
I mean, you make great music about it, you know. So
yeah, maybe I'll inspire the person who will fucking make some change, but
yeah. So you get all that settled. How did that get squared away for you to come back? It's just you waited 15 weeks and then they were like, okay, fine, like just gave you the green light.
Yeah, I think they got frustrated and they just pushed it through. And they're like, here's your permanent residency. So that, like, as soon as I got it, I jumped the border and fucking didn't look back. But years later, you know, I did end up finding out what the cause of it was, and it was because when I crossed the border, I was technically going to visit my fiance so that we could plan the wedding. Then I never came back. I just got married. So technically, my paperwork split into two different people. One of them was supposed to continue on, but the other one continued on. So they had been looking for this fucking case file for years. And just they didn't find it until they booked my citizenship like a year and a half ago. And the guy, the dude was like, he's like, dude, the fucking warehouse that your file was in is massive. It's like a mile long. We had to go digging for it. I'm like, did you try alphabetical? Like, how many? You know what I'm saying? Like, the fuck why did it fucking take that long? My name is Stephen Michael Weatherby. Go look for how many of those are there trying to get into the fucking country from Canada? Give me a break.
Right.
So frustrating, dude.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that was like, man. Fucking.
It was just not knowing was the worst part. You know,
Yeah.
like, what do I tell my wife? You know?
Yeah.
My business is drowning that I have.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of fun, I'm sure. But everything got resolved. Did things in your life get back on track right away? Was it what's the word? Like a work in progress kind of thing?
To be honest, I had been going through so much fucking bullshit that the difference was immediate. So as soon as I came over and I had my right to be here, there was like a couple tiny little hiccups, but not comparatively. Everything just got so much better. And now, the other day, I just came back from Canada for the first time being an American citizen. And it was so fucking fast, I couldn't believe it. I crossed in Detroit, and they have like webcams, and they turn on video, and they make you talk on video. So they're like, what were you in Canada for? And I was like, funeral. He's like, what are you bringing back? I was like, my clothes. He's like, have a nice day. Fucking amazing. Because like before that, you know, for years it was a million different questions. You know,
Wow.
Well, where'd you meet your wife? What'd she do for work? What's this? What's that? You know, like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. Just, You know, you end up in customs for 4 hours, missing your fucking flight, trying to get somewhere. Just the system is so fucked, dude. I feel bad for anybody that has to go through it.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm a little surprised that it's that difficult just on the Canadian border. Like, I'd imagine that from, like, overseas or Mexico, but I didn't realize it was that difficult for Canadians to get through also.
100%. And it's funny, you know, being over here, like, even just talking to people, different friends of mine, they turn it into a racial thing with me. They're like, well, you're white. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, man. That shit literally does not fucking matter at the border. Like, it's a different place, you know? What your ethnicity is does not fucking matter. Your nationality is everything. If you're not American, you're not American. Fuck you. Period.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah, it's very nationalistic here. It's one of my least favorite parts about it. But
and at the same time, I don't blame them, you know? And I kind of do feel like it feels cool. Like, I got through that bullshit. It's one of those struggles that you kind of feel good about after the fact. But for people that have to get separated from their kids and their families and stuff, that's the part where I'm like, you guys need to figure it out, because you don't have it figured out. It's fucked up.
Yeah, that whole shit's a fucking mess, for sure.
That's a mess. That's a mess.
Yeah. So, I had a question, because around in the 2016 era, I'm looking at the Spotify right now, so if there's any releases that are out of order, maybe I'm just don't know because I'm basing it off of Spotify, but there's Finding X, the remaster. Was that an older album that got re-released, or?
Yeah, so Finding X came out in January of 2017, so it's right after, it was the next one after Drowning in Restricted Thought, and that was my attempt at, I was like, you know what, I want to do a fucking straight up horrorcore record, but I don't want to say the words darkness, and I don't want to say the words blood. I wanted to see if I could do it. It was a very, very cerebral, like, record. It wasn't straight up slasher shit like most horrorcore, and for that reason, it did poorly. It didn't do well. I like it. I like the record.
Yeah, I thought
myself.
it was dope. Yeah.
And I do have fans that are like, dude, that's my favorite record of yours. But I get it. I understand why most people were like, huh? You know?
Yeah, well,
So,
no offense to horrorcore fans, but some of them wouldn't get it.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'm
for
kidding.
sure.
I love these.
But I
people,
knew,
but-
yeah, I knew that it was going to be lost on a lot of people, but I don't make records for people. I make them for me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So I heard this quote somewhere, but they said that it's don't make records for people, make them in spite of people.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I like that one a lot. But Finding X was a fucking dope sound. Zenith, I loved that track. That had such a, like, that goes back to the prolific lyricism that I really enjoy. Just the imagery that you put together on that one. Just this whole record. Like, I guess cerebral is a fantastic word to use. I wouldn't have thought of that myself. But yeah, that record definitely had a lot of that imagery that I like.
And I did use a lot of, like, metaphor and simile, especially in that tune. You know, when the sun is at its zenith and I am pi radian side, that means when I'm on the dark side of the earth. So it's just, you know, there were so many different fucking, every single line had a ton of metaphor in it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of those things that I feel like, specifically this record in general, if I listened to it a few times, I'd catch a bunch of new stuff every time. So
For sure, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I dig that one. I got to give that one another listen. Half these I was listening just because I had to drive around so much today. I was just bumping it in the car, you know, doing this and that. And then so then you do Eat the Week. And that one is where, like, your modern sound really starts to kind of come in, I believe. Like,
Yeah, I agree with that, for sure.
So this is 2020, or 2019 is probably when you started writing it. But
Yep.
what was going on in the life of Steve?
It's you know, it's really hard for me to remember because I get so balls deep in the tunes themselves. But but you could tell the amount of frustration that I was feeling, and I think that was the record where it started to change how it sounded coming out. It was more like a fucking, like a gritted tooth kind of pissed off type vibe, more than yelling at the top of your voice and trying to see who could hear you. It was more like nobody's listening, but I am fucking furious.
Yeah, like Beg, that was such a banger. That was such a fucking good one. The way that you switch it up in the chorus too was fucking great. Yeah,
That's a favorite. That became a favorite for like a lot of fans.
Yeah, it was a
I
good
think
one.
if I did a show and didn't do Beg, people would be pissed.
For sure, I could see that. Like, because the whole record's great, but I think Beg is the one that I was like, hold on, let me go back and re-listen to that again. Like,
yeah.
So
I think there could have been a lot of singles off that record. Like Them was on that album, and On High and Beg. Like, there's some fucking bangers.
yeah,
There's
for
some
sure.
songs that still I put them on and I don't cringe, which is a good sign, you know? Because I'm always just moving forward so much that, like, I listen to the last record, I'm like, damn it, that sounds rushed, but it's not. It just is what it is, you know? You give myself a fucking break.
Yeah.
I'm way too hard on myself, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, you being hard on yourself is also what keeps it evolving and progressing and
That's fair.
not getting stale. So, like, yeah, don't go too hard on yourself because, like I said, some of these records still shit on other people's records that have, you know what I mean? You were doing it for, you know, at 22 years old, you were shitting on people that I know that are 40. No offense to some of my friends, but, you know, I just got to be realistic, you know?
Well, I appreciate it because, like, I just didn't know for the longest time. Like, it took me opening up the label and starting to listen to people, like, say things, because I would hear things in passing. But I had no idea that people even knew who the fuck I was still until a few years ago, let alone that I might be decent or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, fast forward and I meet Mumra, and he's like, you don't get it, do you? Like, people know who like, they know you everywhere, dude. And I was like, nah, not really. It's just you know, you just know, you know. And then more people jump on the team, and it's like, oh no, yeah, I've known who the fuck you are for like 10 years, bro.
Wow.
So it's one of those the Bando calls it a wholesome idiot moment, where like I just didn't know my own fucking reputation.
Yeah. I'm in and out of the loop. Like, I was so out of the music loop for a long time because I didn't want those outside influences. But as soon as I started opening up the podcast, and I started the podcast, and I was like, okay, I can't just interview people and not know who they are and what the music is, so I had to do the research. So when I started doing research, you know, someone showed me Samson, and I immediately heard Samson's Witch Hunt record, and I was like, the production, like the mixing, everything is fantastic. I was like, I gotta know who did this. And then Sammy posted stuff about you doing the mixing and mastering. So that's when I was just like, this motherfucker.
what a fucking great record that is, man. It's gonna stand the test of time for sure. Like,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm so happy with that fucking album. Like, and I think that was the first time that I worked with an artist where they did everything I said. They just listened for once. I need people to trust me. It's like, if you want me invested in this, just at least let me say, this is what I think you should try. And he never fought me once on anything. As a matter of fact, when he first hit me up, just before I signed him, I asked him, I was like, what kind of gear do you have? And he's like, I've got all the shit you told me to get. I didn't even remember him hitting me up to ask. He's like, no, yeah, like, I've got this mic, I've got this interface, I've got this, that. And I was like, oh my God, somebody listened to me. Holy fuck, for once. And then after that, just, you know, there was a couple tiny little suggestions here and there for his tunes where I was like, bro, I got an idea, try this out. You know, tiny little things that might not have made a difference, but in the big picture, those are the sweet moments where we both look at each other and go, that was dope. You know, like, the true collaboration of things makes me love that record, for sure.
Oh, for sure. It's a absolute fucking banger. It's a classic. I love that fucking front to back. It's so good. So was that the first record that you put out on Dirtcore when you opened it up to other people?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that was the first one we dropped, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
What was it that made you say, you know what, I'm going to open up Dirtcore and bring people in?
When you start to get old. Oh, yeah, but it was basically me kind of wanting to leave something behind, you know, because I don't have kids, and I'm not going to have kids. But then you start thinking about, like, legacy, you know, and I wanted to be there for artists. And it was always a part of my plan to open it up, like, and bring other people on. That was the plan from day one. But I just kind of decided, like, okay, I think I was turning 40, and I was just like, or I just turned 40 or something. I was like, okay, so I'm going to give this at least 10 solid years of just going hard for other people and building them with Dirtcore, you know. And if I decide to stop after that, that's going to be a legacy that I'll be happy with. So that was the main reason why I opened up Dirtcore, was I wanted to put others on a pedestal and help them get out some of this intense creativity that you know, just needed to come out.
That's dope. That makes a lot of sense, you know, puts it into perspective. And, you know, I'm glad you did, because who knows if we'd be having this conversation if I did, you know, someone didn't send me that record. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't think we would. I probably would have retreated back into my shell and disappeared or something, you know. Yeah. I'm not the kind of person that's ever going to retire from doing this, but maybe one day I might retire from letting others hear it. You know, I'm always going to create. Whether or not it's in a business capacity is another story. Before Dirtcore, I mean, you know, now it's like, no, it's time to go. We're going.
Yeah. No, for sure. Absolutely. So I want to get into Anti, but before we get into Anti, I have to ask about Ultra Chicken.
Yeah, boy.
What is the deal with Ultra Chicken? Give me the story. Give me the scoop.
Yeah. So the guy that did most of my photo shoots and all my music videos, Andy Miller, he had been talking to me for the longest time. He's like, dude, I want to make, like, I'm doing all these music videos and shit, but like, I want to make films. I want to do my own stuff. And I got this idea, yada, yada. Just before the pandemic hits, he shoots Ultra Chicken, and he asked me to score it. Now, Ultra Chicken, it takes place in this post-apocalyptic dystopian future where a virus has wiped everyone out. So I'm literally on lockdown while the pandemic hit, scoring this fucking post-lockdown horror movie.
Yeah.
But it's a fucking trip, that movie. He's still working on distribution for that, and by this point he's got like 4 other films under his belt, and they all have like weird, crazy names, kind of like Ultra Chicken. Like, one is Santa Dog. He's got this weird kind of style where you don't know if it's comedy or horror. It's like really tongue-in-cheek kind of. You want to laugh, but you're like, oh, this is fucking sick. Should I be laughing at this? So, and then and when I was scoring, I didn't know the vibe, what it was supposed to be, and he didn't tell me. So at times I'm leaning into the comedy when it's brutal horror, somebody getting like hacked to death. You know what I'm saying? So, but Ultra Chicken is, I'm so fucking happy with that film, with that score. And like, I asked him, I was like, hey, is it cool if I put up like the sound score to this? And he was like, yeah, absolutely, do it. So that's why that's actually out there. You can look that up. But I think I released it under my real name, so it's not under Crossworm. But I think eventually I'll recategorize it back into Crossworm.
Okay. But can I watch this movie on like YouTube or something like that?
Not yet. Not yet. I think I can get you a private link for your own viewing.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of stuff. It's
great. Gritty and underground and dark, and it's very minimal. There's not a lot of dialogue, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
I'd love to check it out as soon as possible.
Okay, Anti-pop
record.
Yes, sir. That's exactly why I named it that.
What was the inspiration for doing that?
So in 2021, I wanted to do a side project, and I called it Animal. And I wanted it to be kind of like a synth pop, synth wave, dark synth, like that type of shit, like an 80s club sounding type record, but with pop vocals. And again, it's so hard to start over, man. So I did that. I released 2 records. They didn't take off. Even in those scenes, even like posting every day, trying to advertise these projects, they didn't take off. But I didn't want to let it go. So I kind of was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do a Crossworm record. And it's going to be this, but I'm going to lean into more of Crossworm's vibe and the darkness. Less pop, more dark. But I was also studying song math, structure, and the things that make pop music loved by as many people as possible. It's all those little tricks, like those psychological things and mathematics and all this stuff. So I used every bag of fucking tricks I had, and I dumped it into Anti. So that was my goal, was just to make it as catchy as fucking possible, but not sacrifice the content.
Okay. Because this is the first record I heard from you, at least going through all of this, where I don't think there was a single like rap lyric in it whatsoever.
Nope, didn't rap at all on it. Yeah.
How did the fans engage with it? Was it digestible? Like, what was the reception?
That's hard to. It was a completely different group of people showed up. I would say it was like the same amount as Eat the Week, but it was a completely different. Not completely. There was some overlap, but for the most part, it was new people that were before, like I had seen them on posts and stuff like that. Now they were engaging. Now they were starting to chime in and be like, oh, this is my favorite song off this record, blah, blah, blah. Where it was kind of crickets from them before. You know, so I feel like I got the other half of my fan base to really come out, show up. You know?
Okay. Yeah, that's dope. I mean, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I loved it. You know, I'm not normally into like the pop music thing, but it has that dark grittiness to where it's not too corny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And that's kind of what I hoped. I hoped that some people would be like, oh, I don't like pop, but this is pop I can get behind. I feel like this pop kind of represents us. But there's still people that are just like, I don't care how you dress it up. I don't care how dark you make it. I don't like that shit. Go back to the old style. I want to hear fucking Bag Part 2. Get this fucking, you know what I mean? Like, get this anti shit out of here, bro. Like, good for you. You wrote a panty dropper, but I don't wear panties. So, you know? Like,
yeah, you know, to each their own. But
right. And I get it. But like I said before, like, that's the kind of music that I always wanted to make. All the other shit, everything before Anti was a consequence of me not being good enough to make Anti. So it's a weird dichotomy. It's bittersweet, you know?
Okay. I can understand that for sure, because when I first started doing music, I started in a band, but we were terrible. I was not good enough to be in a band. So then the band kind of broke up, and then we were hanging out, just getting stoned, freestyling, and we're like, you know what? Let's just start a rap group. Like we could all
pretty
rap.
much how I started. Yeah. I think that's everybody's story, man. We're just like, so I could do this, you know?
Yeah. So that's how I started. I fell in love with it, and I love hip hop. Just the whole, you know, history of it, everything, the whole culture of it is beautiful to me. But you know, I definitely started off with like I could not play the drums for shit, and I couldn't stay on rhythm or anything like that.
That's my main instrument. I started as a drummer in 1991. You know,
and then Beyond the Grave feels kind of like a more like a continuation of that type of like sound device that you're using. I don't know if that's the right term you want to use for it. It's not as dark as Anti, but it's definitely
a continuation for sure.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like it could be, you know, hey, I'm gonna re-release Anti and put this on it. You know, like as an extra song. Yeah, for sure. And the next one that I have coming out too is even more so.
Okay.
Like it sounds like it's on the radio. It doesn't sound dark at all, but it sounds kind of poppy like that shit.
So you got a lot more of that planned in the future.
I do, yeah. But I also have this itch to go back to like you know, I Still Hate, fucking Like Them. So I'm constantly fighting these different urges to do these certain types of music. Usually I'll sit down and just write a whole EP in a week, and then it'll sit in a folder. So anytime I get get some time to visit these different vibes, that's what I do. It just so happens that Beyond the Grave, this next one, and another one after that were all kind of an EP that I wrote when I was in that kind of mood. But at the last second, I was like, I don't want to drop an EP. I'm just going to break it up into singles and do it that way for a while.
Yeah, the singles is definitely like what everyone's doing right now anyway, so
people will forget a record right after they hear it, man. So like, why would you spend a fucking year working on, 15 songs, and then a week later they don't listen to it again? Break that bitch into 15 singles and release it over the course of a year. You know?
Yeah, it's true. It seems to be the marketing plan right now for a lot of people. Do you think that actually works?
I don't think anything works, brother.
Mm.
I don't think anything works. Nothing works. I've tried it all. I think money works to an extent.
Yeah.
You know, I think faking it till you make it works to a certain extent. But I think we need to stop being so fucking hard on ourselves when we don't see numbers next to songs. It's killing us. It's killing our creativity. And I think anybody else might think that what I'm doing with these poppy songs is a result of that. It's like, oh, he's just trying to chase likes, but it don't get the fucking likes either, bro. Yeah. It's not getting the love. It's not getting pop love.
Yeah.
It's the important thing is just to make the stuff that you want to make. Nothing else fucking matters. Now, when you want to talk about business and making money, you got to stop talking about art.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They don't mix.
So I guess this is more a philosophical question, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's very direct. But how did art become such a business then?
I think it always comes down to population. You know, so if there's an artistic movement that's happening that starts to gain momentum, and there's a lot of people showing up, immediately the motherfuckers that are into events and selling fucking tickets and concessions, pop chips, fucking hot dogs and shit, those people step in and they take over. And then it's no longer about art, it's about an event. It's just, you know, people monetize shit that doesn't fucking need it. If people were going to show up to an art gallery regardless to see somebody do a performance art, they weren't there to buy a fucking boba.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's
so
true.
They were there for the fucking art, but you know, people smell transactions. They smell money. They're like, we can get some of that. They want to get as many transactions out of you as possible. At heart, I'm just a fucking failed capitalist anyways. We all are. You know, I could sit here and say that I hate capitalism, but I would love to say that in a fucking mansion.
Yeah,
I haven't done that yet.
For fucking real, yeah.
You know what I'm
real.
saying? I want to cry in a Lamborghini for once, bro.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that to my core. All right, well, I got a couple last questions and we can wrap it up. I don't want to hold you all night. What's for the future of Crossworm and Dirtcore?
Just to keep going, man. Just to remain being creative at all costs, you know, and music is not the be-all, end-all of creativity. And I think more people should realize that too. You don't always have to make a song. You can make a beautiful piece of art. You can write a poem, you know, or just being in your kitchen and just cooking food for somebody you love, putting your heart and your creativity into it. Expression. That's what the future of Crossworm is, and Dirtcore. You know, it's always just going to be about expressing yourself in a world that just doesn't feel right without expression.
Yeah, I fuck with that. What is the status of Bodies?
Bodies. Yes. We've just got a couple more verses to record, and then it's done. After that, we'll put together what the physical's going to look like. I want to do something cool like a body bag bundle, and like have a box that maybe looks like a casket or something, and just some really cool shit. Sammy's just been working a ton, and his allergies have been crazy. So, you know, I'm just waiting for him to feel okay, and then I'm going to fucking crack the whip on his ass, and we're going to get this record done.
Perfect. Dope. I can't wait to hear that. The music video is fantastic, so, you know.
Oh, it's Andy, man. Andy's a fucking genius. Just everything he does is just, he just picks up a camera and walks around, and it's amazing somehow.
You know, it's like, crazy. Some people just have that eye, and then I try to film some shit sometimes, and I'm like, God damn it. Like,
you know? Yeah. I've tried my hand at it too, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna leave that to the people who got it. I don't got it. I've got the sound. I don't got the visual. So.
Yeah, I have ideas in my head, but I don't. Anything that I try to do with my hands is, I end up breaking it somehow. So
you're like, I got a guy for that.
I got guys for fucking everything because
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so perfect. I guess this will bring us just to the last two things that I ask people at the end of every episode, which is first and foremost, do you have any people that you would just love to just shout out and give some love to right now?
Fuck everybody. No, no. I've got to give it to my whole team, man. To all of Dirtcore, Bando included. Everybody's fucking rock stars. We've been here for each other, and they all deserve all the love and respect in the world. They're great fucking people, beyond the music. So shouts out to them, man. Dirtcore music. Fuck everybody else. Fuck you. Fuck your mother. Fuck your mother's mother. Fuck her mother. And fuck whoever's dick she sucked.
Perfect. I love it. Words of advice for people out there, whether it's for musicians or just general life advice that's been resonating with you.
Yeah, don't take advice. Don't take advice. Just live your life, man.
All right. No.
That's you know what? There is one piece of advice that I gave to Sammy when he first jumped on. It's okay to be scared, but do shit scared. That's our motto now. Do shit scared.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Well, Crossworm, thank you very much for your time, and it's been a pleasure getting to hear your story.
Yes, sir, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yep, of course, absolutely.